All right, guys, welcome back to the Hoops Nerd channel. Just finished episode 1 and 2 of The Last Dance, and I gotta say, it kind of gave me that feeling I've been missing, that sports. For a little bit, I forgot I was in quarantine. I was sitting watching basketball. I grew up watching Michael Jordan, obviously a Jazz fan, rooting against Michael Jordan, but just seeing some of these things that I hadn't really seen, the Michael Jordan playing against Larry Bird and some of those things, I had not seen those things. I knew Jordan more when it was like early to late 90s is when I started really watching Michael Jordan, when I started watching a lot more basketball as I grew up. Just nice to watch this footage. There's just a few takeaways from this. One, it's fantastic. If you haven't seen The Last Dance, make sure you get a chance to go see it. Record it on your DVR. That's what I did. I recorded on my DVR. You can come to my house one of these days and watch it with me, maybe. But I really enjoyed just watching kind of the story of Michael Jordan, of where he came from, how he got there. So many of us know that story from different ways. Some of us just, because Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time, and that's not really debatable. We've all learned about him, his story, his growing up, his getting cut from the high school team, and then going to North Carolina, and then the phone call from the Bulls practice facility saying, "Oh my gosh, we got a good one here." And just all these different stories we've all heard, but it was so cool to just see the footage, to see those things and just watch it and watch basketball. It's just so good. But this, I think one of the things I take away from it is just the rich history of it, just the essence that is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan really set a precedent for so many things that some players had kind of done before, whether it's like Larry Bird or Magic Johnson. But Michael Jordan kind of set a precedent of winning. I don't know how else to describe it. You watch these playoff series where Jordan goes out and scores 49 in one game, and then the next game scores like 63, and they lose in the last second of the game, and those things drove him. I love seeing his just disdain for the idea of losing games on purpose. If he's going to play, he's going to try to win. And you kind of can see that in some ways. Like, our viewpoint nowadays of basketball is pretty different than, maybe GMs and stuff back then. But when you see what Jerry Krause was doing, is it really that different? Trying to lose a few games to get a top 7 pick that in the long run probably helps Jordan get better players quicker. Jordan was just such a phenomenal competitor. On top of it, just insane athletic talent, skill. He was just the perfect total package. You watch him in those games where there's just no room to go anywhere, and he still finds a way to get to the hoop, dunk over guys, or he has that mid-range pull-up where he just hangs in the air like he can fly. If he played in this era today, it would be lights out. I gotta say, the other thing is just how cool Michael Jordan was. I mean, look at these shoes right here. Let's see, how can I point? Just the Jordan 1s. How cool were those? Probably not the best basketball shoes in terms of just how they play because of the technology back then. Now they're just the coolest shoes there is. And Jordan, just everything about him, the retro look of that early Bulls team is just so cool. And just sets so many standards for like style and influence shoes forever. I mean, just everything about it is cool and fun. And there's no like, it's not surprising to see how it just became this phenomenon where he's like this just icon who's the best scoring player in the league. He can score 50 points on any night, and he has these shoes that are just cool, and he plays in a big city in Chicago, and he's just this dominant personality who just can't even stand the mere taste of losing. Is just incredible to watch, and it's just easy to see how much of a phenomenon he became, and eventually getting the Gatorade and the shoe deals and all these things. Jordan was just an icon, and watching this is like watching it happen. It's just fun to watch. The other part, and they talked about it more in episode 2, was Scottie Pippen and just how important Scottie Pippen was. Jordan didn't do anything in terms of like going to the finals or any of these things until Scottie Pippen joined the team. Scottie Pippen was such a dominant, ferocious defender and such an efficient, underrated offensive player. He really was the perfect complement to Michael Jordan. And Jordan and Pippen together changed the game because, you watch that draft with where Hakeem Olajuwon goes first, Sam Bowie goes second, because you have to get a big. That's the mindset. You have to get a big. If you don't get a big, then what are you doing in the draft? Especially if you're like the number 2 pick. And then number 3 is Jordan. And you get this guy, and like, I love that quote in this thing where like, I think it was Bill Walton, or I think Mark Eaton for Jazz fans was saying like, well, he's not 7'1". You know, he's not very big, so I don't know how he's going to carry a team. He's only 6'6". How is a 6'6" guy going to carry a team? And then we realize there, from then on, with Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, with this ferocious, long, athletic defense that was so dominant during their era, that really it's that dominant wing player that helps you win games, at least in the modern game. Back in the day, it was, you know, a skyhook from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Hakeem Olajuwon was kind of a transitionary big, although Hakeem Olajuwon was amazing. I mean, 2 titles for Hakeem Olajuwon, although he only wins those titles because Jordan took a vacation. But, you know, it's just incredible how Jordan changed the game. He showed what a wing player could do. And then everyone after just emulates Jordan, whether it's Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, who's a different type of player, but similar drive to be like Jordan. He just changed everything. But Scottie Pippen was that perfect complement. They had 2 insanely athletic, long, big wing defenders in Jordan and Pippen. And then you have Ron Harper, who's like 6'5" himself. You have this insanely big, long, athletic defensive team that was so dominant. And then later on you get Dennis Rodman, and it's, you know, you have 72-win Chicago Bulls. But fun to see Scottie Pippen just so dominant, and how underpaid he was. I don't think I actually realized that. I remember that season where they talked about it in episode 2, where the Bulls start off really slow. And as a Jazz fan, I was like, yes, this is our chance. They're going to go back and maybe get a chance to beat the Bulls. Actually, maybe Scottie Pippen won't even play. Maybe Jerry Krause will trade him away. Please. Everyone else in the league is just clamoring for it, begging Jerry Krause to screw this up and get this best wing defender in the NBA, Scottie Pippen, maybe the best wing defender in the history of the game, off that team. Eventually they figure it out, and they leave it on a cliffhanger in episode 2. By the way, at the end of that episode, I'm like, oh, it's over already? We got to wait for more? I'm so starved for basketball. But eventually we know what happens. Scottie Pippen comes back. I actually don't know the details, so I'm excited to see kind of what happens, the contract and all these things. I know Scottie Pippen at some point eventually goes and plays for the Trailblazers and stuff. And honestly, maybe they could talk a little bit, and maybe they will go into it. But that Scottie Pippen-led team of when Jordan left the Bulls still made the playoffs. That right there tells you how impactful Scottie Pippen was. And he was as important to them winning the finals as Jordan, because without Pippen, they weren't the same team. And you see that in that episode too. They couldn't win a road game. You know, so Scottie Pippen gets a lot of props. He deserves it. He was so good against the Jazz. They had Scottie Pippen guarding Stockton at times, and he was just such a big part of them beating the Jazz. I mean, those were close games, and the Jazz, if they have a few things go their way, could win them. So without Scottie Pippen, this doesn't happen. So really fun to watch. I hope you guys are watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Just a fun historical. For Jazz fans, it's painful, but I think for me as a Jazz fan, watching this is just enjoyable. And I think when you kind of get to a point where you can just appreciate who Jordan was and what he did and how great he was, he really was the greatest of all time. It becomes kind of, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. It kind of makes it nice in a way. It's interesting. It doesn't take away the pain of it. You know, we'll never get that back, but it's just, I don't know, something about it's satisfying, guys. Like and subscribe to this channel, guys. I will talk to you later.